Amidst heightened tensions between the West and Russia, Russian nuclear-capable warplanes were spotted over the Pacific. The jets were intercepted by American F-16s near Alaska. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, two of its Tu-95MS strategic bombers flew over the Pacific Ocean, the Bering Sea and the Sea of Okhotsk. Moscow says the nuclear-capable jets performed a planned flight in the airspace over the neutral waters. The flight duration was more than 12 hours. The Russian Defense Ministry has asserted all the flights carried out were in strict accordance with the international rules of the use of airspace. The aircraft were escorted by MiG-31 fighter planes and refueled while in the air.
The new commander of Russian forces in Ukraine says the Russian army is preparing to evacuate civilians from the city of Kherson, the first big city to fall to Russia at the start of its invasion of Ukraine in February. Ukrainian forces have been steadily retaking territory near Kherson, which is a strategically important port, giving access to the Black Sea. Well, elsewhere in Ukraine, more than 1,000 towns and villages are now without power after Russian air strikes. President Zelensky says 30% of Ukraine's power stations have been destroyed in the past 8 days.
An image seen the world over. Elnaz Rekabi, an Iranian climber, competing without her headscarf. The 33-year-old finished fourth in the boulder and lead event in South Korea on Sunday, but the result was secondary to an act of bravery applauded by many around the globe. It was a clear breach of Iranian law. The country's female citizens must wear the hijab even abroad when representing their country. Since the event, no one had heard from the climber. Alarm bells ringing over her safety, until Tuesday morning, a statement posted on her Instagram account.
During the finals of the Asian Championship, there was a scheduling mistake. They called me at the last minute to get to the climbing wall. There was an accidental error in the way I dressed.
A day after South Korea began its annual military drills, North Korea has fired artillery shells near its border with South Korea. Now, according to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, North Korea fired around 100 shells off its west coast and 150 rounds off its east coast. The South Korean military further said that the shells did not land in the South Korean territorial waters but fell inside the maritime buffer zones that the two Koreas had established under a 2018 inter-Korean agreement. This is the second time in the last 5 days that North Korea has fired shells into the buffer zone, violating the 2018 agreement.
Now, Russia's invasion has also triggered an energy crisis right across Europe, one that has been exacerbated by leaks in the Nord Stream pipelines, if you remember. Now, Danish police say the damage was, quote, caused by powerful explosions. These new underwater images you're seeing there show gaping holes in Nord Stream 1, which Western leaders have called an act of sabotage. With winter approaching, the EU is ramping up efforts to ensure Europe's energy supply is safe, whilst attempting, of course, to tackle the rising costs.
In a court in Malaysia, 11 suspects are charged with abducting a Palestinian man in late September. A local media report said he was allegedly snatched from outside of the Star Residence's 2 building in Kuala Lumpur, beaten and bundled into a waiting car. A friend he was with escaped and alerted the police. They eventually tracked down the abductors to a house on the outskirts of Kuala Lumpur and freed the Palestinian. Malaysia's caretaker Home Minister says officials are investigating claims Mossad was behind the abduction. An Interior Ministry spokesman in Gaza had no doubt the Israelis were involved.
Residents of Mahamra have endured a lot over the years. The small town in northern Lebanon sits near the Syrian border. Thousands of refugees have fled to camps here. Much of the population lives in poverty. Now another fear has emerged after several residents tested positive for cholera, a bacterial disease normally spread through contaminated water. According to officials, it's likely the disease was spread from neighboring Syria, where an outbreak has killed dozens of people. While the infections may have come from abroad, the local situation isn't helping.
From 2019 to now, we have faced inflation. There is an increase in fuel prices, and there are more people who can't get clean water for their houses.